Three, two, one. Hello, welcome. It's Devora Steinberg from Genesis Integrative Therapy and Coaching. And I am so excited to be with you this morning to talk with one of my favorite people, Stephanie Pena. You all have such a treat today to hear from her. And we're going to talk about a topic that I'm sure interests you, which is creating your ideal relationship. What's wrong?
It says you're going to go live, but you're not live.
Uh-oh.
On Facebook. You have to hit publish.
Hold on a second. Steve said that it says we're about to go live, but he's looking at Facebook and we're not live. Okay, hang on. I don't know why.
It says you're live.
It says we're live here. That's interesting. Maybe somehow I didn't use the right link because I was opening things so many times. Huh. Let me try this.
Oh, it says there's just a typical delay. You're good.
Okay. So hello. You were all just watching that. We are learning. Hello. So welcome. We are here to talk about creating your ideal relationship with somebody who has a lot to say about that. There is something that you can do. If you are watching and you are very much wanting to create your ideal relationship, let me tell you from my own personal experience, and Stephanie will tell you from hers, that there is guidance, there is help to go through a process and get there. From where you are now in a place where you might be feeling lonely, you might be feeling like you want to be connected to a partner and don't know how you could get from where you are to where you'd like to be. We're going to talk about that today. So welcome, Stephanie.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be part of this learning process as we figure out Facebook Live.
Yes. There's a lot of technological learning as well as a lot of internal learning.
Yeah.
So could you tell us where you were, when should we say, a few years ago? 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
I would say probably in the 3 to 4 years ago. Yeah. I really just found myself in a place where I was struggling specifically with this relationship piece that we're talking about, because when I looked at the rest of my life, I really didn't have anything that I felt like was a red flag for not being a good life, right? So I was finishing university. I was doing really well academically, and what I was growing of my professional career, things were really great there. But when it came to my personal life and the relationships and the people that I was choosing to date, and just to have relationships with in general, whether those were friendships or whatever, they weren't really working for me.
Yes.
They weren't healthy. They weren't healthy in any kind of way. Of course, hindsight is 2020. So you don't realize that at the time. But I realized that there was a lot of cat and mouse in my relationship. So I would meet someone and it would be exciting. And then there would be this, low and then a high and then a low and a high. And so by the time the relationship ended, I was exhausted. I was exhausted every single time. And so I left those relationships not really feeling good about all of this energy and time that I had invested, when afterwards I could really sit back and say, wow, that probably wasn't a relationship I should have started in the first place. And then lo and behold, the next person would come around and it would kind of be that same pattern. And
Right.
So it really got to this point in my life where I was saying, okay, I'm successful in all these other areas of how I define success, but when it comes to this relationship piece, it's really just not working, and I'm not feeling very good about myself.
Right. Okay. So can you tell us, we'll fill in the middle. Can you tell us where you are now? This is the fun part.
Yeah. So where I am now, I'm married very, very happily. And it's not only kind of just this idea of marriage and being married, but I'm married to someone who I'm never bored with, someone who definitely feels like a partner to me. Our relationship is very fulfilling. It's very healthy. And it's been a relationship where I'm able to really commit 100% and feel successful in that way. And that kind of redefines everything else in my life in terms of what I believe is success.
Right.
Yeah.
And you not only is it healthy, because I know you and I know both of you, but you give what you want to give and you receive what you want to receive, and that keeps repeating itself.
Well, and it feels more balanced too. So I would say that before I recognized this kind of high and low all the time, and it was just emotionally draining. Whereas here, I wouldn't say necessarily that those highs are always as high as that, initial rush when you meet someone and you're, overly excited and you don't stop texting them or whatever that is. But it's still really high, and it's this balanced all the time feeling of being high. And so it's just, I'm happier. I'm just a happier person because I'm able to put my energy in this consistent thing that makes me happy instead of being kind of torn all over the place, dragged all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me say for you, because I've known you over this whole time, and for anyone who's watching who can relate to where you were, that I was at in the past, and where you are now, which is also where I am in a much happier place. This is a transition both of us have taken, and there really is a very clear system, a way, and this is what we do at Genesis Integrative Therapy and Coaching, is helping you get from that place of loneliness and discontentment to the place of health and balance and stability and fulfillment in a relationship. And one thing I want to make sure I say, and I'm sure you agree with this, it's not really about that you found the healthy relationship. It's really about what you with yourself, which was absolutely necessary to get there. So let's talk about that. How did you get from A to Z? What happened for you? And how did that help along the way?
Sure. I think that there were two main things that were really kind of influential in this. The first thing is to step back and say, okay, what part do I have in the relationships that I'm choosing? I think that culturally we have this idea that I'm just gonna, wait along and be beautiful, and one day the right man is gonna come and the relationship will be perfect, and I don't have to really put any energy into attracting that person or making sure that person's good for me or whatever. We have this idea that's very romanticized that we're simply going to find the right person. And that's really not the case. And I think that now we have a lot of ways to meet people. So we can get online. There are tons of, social groups in the city, wherever, you're living. But Boston has Social Boston Sports and just kind of, meet up different networking groups. So you can meet all the people you want. So the question is now, how are you kind of weeding out who's not good for you? How are you making an active decision on who you're allowing yourself to meet? Who you're allowing yourself to, continue engaging in and continue having a relationship with. And so the first part was for me to say, okay, maybe I can't control, these A, B, and C, but I can control something within these relationships. So it's time that I step back and say, all right, I'm part of this relationship too. What are these red flags that I'm not seeing? How could I be seeing it? What is my behavior, communicating, or my choice of partner communicating, that I keep having pretty much the same guy with a different face over and over and over. That says something about me. And so let's take a step back and acknowledge that, and then try to really work to figure that out. And the second thing that I did that I think is going to speak very well to you and what you do is looking for a professional to help do those things. I think that
why is that important?
I think culturally that we're supposed to have friends to help us with these things.
That's right.
Right. So we're supposed to have friends who give us direction or, support us or listen to us or whatever. But the problem is your friends generally are kind of about the same place you are. So at this point in my life, I had a lot of friends who were like me and not figuring it out for one reason or another, or they were mysteriously and magically married and happy. And it was just something that kind of happened to them. Like they couldn't really pinpoint what it was that they had done or had not done. We were also in this friend space. So sometimes you can tell the truth to someone you know really well. Other times, you have dinner plans with this person tomorrow. And so you don't want to say the wrong thing. Like, oh, it's none of my business. There's a lot of kind of internal dialogue going on in a friendship that really prohibits what one will or will not say to you. And then on top of it, when you're speaking about these things with your friends, it's reciprocal. So okay, I've talked about my relationship complaints for 20 minutes. Let me hear what's going on with your life.
That's right.
And that's kind of problematic because whether we recognize it or not, I think that we're always kind of playing that game of how long have I been talking? Am I letting that other person talk? And so that's not only, kind of controlling how much we really say, but it's also affecting how much we're listening when that other person is talking. So it's not a space that's about us. It's not coming from someone who really knows what they're listening for or knows what you're communicating or knows sometimes enough about you as a person and this bigger spectrum of your life, your family, your friends, your work life, to know how that comes together. So although friends are a great resource, they really don't have the skill set to help you a lot of the time.
And you know that you're speaking to something really powerful, which is acknowledging you did a really important step yourself, which is acknowledging that you were a big part of the problem. But then finding the patterns, the blocks, and the fears, that's where people like me come in, because friends are neither trained nor able to see through. They have their own relationship with you already, probably based on some of those old beliefs and patterns that you've had with partners. So someone who's trained to take you through that system of acknowledgement, which you did beautifully on your own. Most people in the 25 years I've been doing this don't even do that first step on their own. They just say, I want a partnership or I want something to change. So acknowledging that you are part of the problem and sitting with those feelings and being committed to change, finding someone to help you, and then going through the process of the blocks and fears, removing them, and then getting help with taking the new action steps. So that's the system that we do at Genesis, to take you through those steps. That's, I don't want to say impossible, but for me, for you, and for anybody I've ever known, doing all of that yourself is just about impossible. And you don't have to do it alone.
I think that it's really important what you were saying too about some of those friendships and relationships being built on, those similar patterns as before. So, hindsight again, looking back at it now, I've had kind of a split group of friends that are still really great friends of mine and who I know share those same values and respect. And I really can go to them, and that's a solid, healthy relationship that I've continued to have. At the same time, there were a lot of friendships that I had to get rid of, or I had to distance myself from, or I had to put on new boundaries or new, whatever around this relationship to kind of form them into healthy relationships, or at least say, like, I'm acknowledging this is no longer a healthy relationship. This is what needs to change, or maybe we should reconsider this friendship. But at the time, being in that middle space, there's so much, I think, just lack of clarity about what that relationship is and what it's supposed to be, that you're not really going one way or the other. So as much as I might go to this healthy person, this healthy relationship, for advice or feedback or whatever, I'm also just as likely to go to that other person that I don't have a healthy relationship with.
That's right.
So it's flipping a coin, first of all, on who I'm going with.
Don't flip a coin, folks. Don't need to flip a coin.
A lot of the time, it was going to that unhealthy person because there was also that same thrill, right? Like, oh, let's do this. Let's make you an OkCupid profile. Let's get on Tinder. Like, oh, there's the excitement, right? Which now I can see it's not necessarily lack of excitement, but having that thrill is not always a good sign. And even when I would get, advice, for example, from both of them, it was so just together at that point that you really couldn't weed out what was good and what was bad. And since that's already something I was having trouble with, like, how do I weed out if this is a good relationship or a bad relationship? How am I also going to be weeding out what's good advice and what's bad advice? Let alone that person kind of having the communication skill set to know how to communicate those things in a way that I was going to listen, which is a whole other set of training. There's a whole other set of training that people just don't have.
That's right. Right. Well, you really said it so beautifully, and I couldn't be happier for you and Rafa, your husband Rafa, about that. Not only that you found each other, but that you each have the skills and ability to continue to fulfill each other and be happy with each other, and you will be for a lifetime. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And I was happy that I was at your wedding. That was wonderful. So you're really talking about an internal process, what changes inside of you, and then getting help to make the external changes, which who you're weeding in and who you're weeding out. Where are you going to meet people? How do you behave with somebody? So there's so many nuances and steps. And I know with the clients that I've worked with, and I know even when we were, talking together through that process, you need a lot of help even during.
Yeah.
That's really something that's very, very hard to do on
I
your
think
own.
that what you're also looking at doing too is making a shift in your behavior and the way that you see things, the way that you're communicating, interacting with other people. And all of those shifts eventually, are for the good, but any change is really hard. And so I think there's a lot of insecurity within those changes, and kind of, for me, having a continuous relationship with a therapist who was able to support those decisions.
Yes.
And still acknowledge the fact that they were hard. They were hard choices to make. They came at their own pace. Sometimes it would be a lot of progress and then not so much.
Yeah.
And so you're right. It wasn't just one decision and one kind of change of behavior from that decision. It's a process. It's something that takes a lot of time, a lot of support, and it takes that support from someone who is trained to support you in that way.
Yes. And, that's what we do at Genesis. We guide people who are spiritually and soul focused to create their ideal relationships and to create the life of their dreams. I mean, the relationship is one piece of what many people want. But there is help out there. If anybody is struggling, please, please, please don't do this alone. Do as we do, not just as we say. This is something that can change. And if you are committed and determined and you invest in yourself, you invest in the time and even invest in finances, to make this happen, it's worth it. If this is something that you are wanting in your life, it will happen. It can happen. And we are both living proof of that, from that place of disconnect to that place of deep, valuable connection. So what would you say to anybody who's watching and saying, yeah, that worked for you, but I don't know. I don't know about me finding help. I don't think it's going to work for me. What would you say to them?
I would say there's two things. So the first thing is what you were just saying about how, people are generally looking for help and guidance and support in different aspects of their life, but a lot of them do have that shared factor of relationships. Relationships, when they are good and healthy and positive, are fulfilling. And so as soon as you kind of get that piece, or the closer you can get to that piece of your life being more the way that you want it to be, in a way that's beneficial to your life, your career falls in place, your finances fall in place, your mental health, your physical health, that falls in place. So you're just more fulfilled. You're happier to be in the life that you're living. And so you're much more likely at that point to make better decisions in other areas of your life.
That's right.
So I think that the relationship piece, although it is only one piece,
yes,
it's a lot more fulfilling for me than my job is.
Yes.
Easily. And so my whole life has kind of been refocused towards keeping that at the center, whether it's with my husband or with my family or with my friends. So I think that's the first thing that you said that was really important. And the second thing was this word, invest. So when I was looking at it, I was saying, all right, I'm spending, this much time on OkCupid, which is on my phone. So I'm using my battery, I'm using my data, whatever, I'm paying for this phone. I'm spending this much time getting ready for this date, right? So let's say then I'm talking to this person for 3 weeks before we meet. I'm spending this much time getting ready. I'm doing my hair. I'm doing my makeup. I'm picking out my clothes. I'm buying a new outfit. I'm wearing these shoes. We have to pick a place. I'm going prepared to have to pay for this place. Is this place going to be expensive? Can I really afford it? I have, this work commitment that I need to do. Can I really afford this night off? So I was looking at all of these things that I was investing right from the get-go without meeting this person. Then let's say I waste another 6 months in an unhealthy relationship. That's time, that's money, that's my emotional health. And then spending all this time afterwards trying to deal with why it didn't work. Yeah. So when I look at what am I investing in these relationships with the wrong people, and then to think about what am I investing in myself to choose better people. I mean, it just seems silly when you think about that in terms of investment. If you're willing to invest.
Short-term thinking.
Yes. If you're willing to invest all of this in someone that you don't know, well, for me, that better be someone that I'm going to continue to know afterwards because I've invested all of this work. Right. At the end of the day, investing that in myself, that's the best decision that anyone could make.
It's a life-changing decision. And you know, what I wanted to say in conclusion, and then I'll give you a chance to say in conclusion, is the real changes happen at the roots. And this is what I say to all my clients I have for decades. If you're going to get at the roots and the trunk of the tree, then everything in the limbs and the branches and the leaves will all fall into place. If there's toxicity coming in at the roots, forget it. It's going to go through the entire organism. So what we do at Genesis is different than what other therapists and relationship coaches do, because we work at the roots. And the changes are permanent and lasting and can affect all aspects of your life. And you really did that. That is, you are the living example of the proof of that.
Yeah, and I think something that you recently reminded me of personally is you cannot expect a different outcome if you're in the same environment. And so if you're choosing similar people, if you're, you know, flirting at the beginning of your relationship is kind of always the same, if you're noticing that there's some kind of pattern with the men you choose, whether it's the background they come from or the jobs that they hold or their education level or, you know, how they view their family and their relationships, all of these different things that individually probably don't really matter, but they could be saying something bigger about yourself and why are you choosing the people that you're choosing. And it's really important not only to explore those, but then to have the power to make an active decision about whether you're going to continue to make those same decisions. And that's really empowering. It really does. It really changes your life.
Empowering about everything. Yep. Well, you are the living proof. You know, you are who you wanted to be 3 years ago. You know, and I'm who I wanted to be 4 years ago. So it is absolutely possible. You know, my journey took much longer. I was much older than you were when I did that piece. But we've both done that, and it's worth it. It's worth it for a lifetime. So I wanted to offer anybody who's watching to at least have a conversation with me about what you're struggling with. You know, I can help you get through from wherever you are to where you want to be. Again, at those roots. That's the powerful place for lasting change. So thank you, Stephanie. You're a joy as always. And I hope that you have inspired everybody who's watching and created hope and next steps for anybody. And it's, you know, it's what we would have wanted to hear, this conversation just a few years ago.
Yes, so, yes. Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching, everybody. If you're watching live, thank you. If you're watching the replay, thank you also. And we will look forward to speaking to you again soon at Genesis Integrative Therapy and Coaching. Bye-bye.